everybody, welcome to both Board Game Breakfast and the Dice Tower Spring Spectacular. If you don't know what we're talking about, we're doing 4 spectaculars this year. Each one has a slightly different bent to it, but they are 4 days of us doing a lot of streaming, some pre-recorded stuff, but hopefully it's a break from our usual stuff, although we have some of our usual stuff in it, as in we have Board Game Breakfast, we'll have our Thursday Board Game Breakfast, our crowd surfing, but we have games that we're streaming live, and we have lots of contests and things like that. So that's all exciting and interesting. I think it's exciting and interesting. So we're going to get started, and we're going to start, as always, with a contest. We have a contest from Pandasaurus Games. Now, Pandasaurus makes a bunch of, or co-publishes several small games. Like, for example, here we have the Mind Extreme, which is one of the games they did. And we have 3 gaming bundles here for you of the game, which is
Got it. All right. Now we're on for real, folks. All righty. So let's jump back on. Maybe that mic is dead?
No, you're good. You're good now.
Okay. Let's try this again. Welcome to the Spring Spectacular, where there will be no errors at all. All right, so we have a contest, which is what we were talking about. And this is from Pandasaurus Games, and this is to folks in the USA or Canada. And you can win one of 3 bundles of games. You can get the Mind, the Illusion, and the Game. All 3 of them you'll get, small little games, and you just need to email us at contest@dicetower.com, and in the subject line put the word pocket, because these are all games you can fit in a pocket if you have a big pocket, which I do. And then you just need to answer the question, which of these 3 games was published first? Nothing else. If you win, we'll ask you for your address. All you gotta do is answer that question. Which of the 3 games was published first? The Game, Mind, or Illusion? I'm sorry, the Game, the Mind, or Illusion. Which one of those 3 was published first? Okay, so that contest is going on, and we're going to have lots of contests throughout these 4 days, so stay tuned for things like that. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on with the Dice Tower. So first of all, we are still on the search for a new studio. People have been asking about that. The search for that is going well. We have hopefully found a place, but there's still everything involved with going into that. When we do find the place, we will be, and once we're completely done, we will likely have to shut the Dice Tower down for a couple weeks, where we will be moving from one studio to the other. We're going to have to do some work, build some studios, move everything. We'll try to stream some of that stuff live so you can see a little bit of it. Not everyone wants to work live all the time. But the end result for that will be fantastic. Alrighty, so that's one thing we're talking about. Also, we're very, very happy to say that this, just for those of you out there who might be wondering, everyone at the Dice Tower at this point in time has been, or at least has got their first shot of vaccinations, and or everyone you're going to see on this stream, that's happened to them, and or they've been tested. So we're excited about that, and hopefully you will enjoy us playing games together live over this period of time. All right, now let's talk about conventions. So we all know that Gen Con was delayed to later this year, but we have some conventions coming up. So let's go to Tim first. He's going to talk a little bit about Dice Tower West.
Hey, everybody. Tim from Dice Tower West here. I'm just checking in to give you a quick update about Dice Tower West 2022. Remember the dates, March 2nd through 6th. That's Wednesday through Sunday of 2022. But here's the thing. We have moved to a brand new location. That's right. We're not going to quite reveal it just yet, but we want you to know that it is bigger, better, more spectacular than it's ever been. We started out at Alexis Park, then went to the Eastside Cannery, then to the Westgate. Now we're moving again. Not only that, we have some fantastic hotel rates for you. So let me tell you, Dice Tower West 2022 is going to be spectacular. So keep watching here in the Dice Tower for more information and more updates. But meanwhile, enjoy the Spring Spectacular. Thanks again. This is Tim from Las Vegas. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
All right, from our end, Dice Tower retreats are still happening this year. We have one in September, and that one is almost full and sold out. If you're interested in it, email kenny@dicetower.com. And our plans to have one in November look very promising. In fact, we should be announcing stuff like that soon, except I'll be announcing it to the people who responded to me first. So if you want to get on that list, send an email to tom@dicetower.com, and we'll give you the information about that. I can tell you that the November retreat will be in Orlando. The September retreat is in Miami. But other than that, they'll be the same. It is essentially 5 days of sheer gaming, nothing else, just games. The Dice Tower Library, which coincidentally is being painted at a brisk pace at this point in time. There's quite a few of the games that are being painted. All right, the Kickstarter. Good news, everybody. The Kickstarter, the Pledge Manager, when we're using GameFound this year, and we're also going to be using D6 distribution to send our things out. So there's a lot of announcements today, and stay tuned, there's more to come. But we're working with D6 distribution, and one of the good things there is that we're going to have both EU-friendly shipping and Canadian-friendly shipping. So I'm excited about that, but that's going to go out at some point this week. Once we're done getting it, there's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff to get these Pledge Managers ready. So that's going to go out, and if you want to be part of that Pledge Manager and you missed it and you want to be added to it when we start it up, just email kenny@dicetower.com. So that's all going on. And then the somewhat sad news, I guess, or maybe it's good news for us, is this is just a matter of course. Whenever we run one of these spectaculars, we're going to be on for 4 days. But then we're going to take about 4 or 5 days off. I apologize. I don't apologize. People need some time off. So there won't be a ton of videos over the weekend or Monday and Tuesday of next week, but you will see some videos because our contributors have some videos going up. So there'll be a few videos going live, and I'll be doing a Q&A in there somewhere. So there's some stuff going up. There will be no board game breakfast next Monday, but we'll be back the following Monday, and actually we'll be back that following Thursday. All right, that's all of our announcements. For now, I got another big one coming up a little bit later in this episode, but we'll talk about it then. Let's get to some contributors.
Hi, it's Tarrant.
And Stella from Meeple University and the Dice Tower. So, once upon a time...
It's still, I had this growing up, and it's still kind of a classic storytelling game, and I've had a lot of fun with this in my adult time as well. I often find it can be tough to get people into the mindset of this being an activity and not a game. You've got to make people think like, how do I win? And they'll come up with like one sentence to get all of their cards out. For those who are familiar with this game, you get a bunch of fairy tale cards,
right,
and you have to play them as you tell the story. And when I've played it as an adult, it's almost turned into a variation of like trap words, where you're trying to tell a story without possibly using any word that anyone else has on their card, because then they'll interrupt you and then they'll take the story. It doesn't form a coherent story, but definitely had a lot of fun with it. And I do remember when we played it growing up as well. At one point we were telling our story, and Dad decided to try to interrupt by playing a dragon card, saying, "This story is dragging on."
Nice.
And we said no.
That's where your dad joke came from your dad, obviously.
Obviously.
That's it. We are from Meeple University and also on the Dice Tower. See you next time.
Hi everybody,
Hello, we are Ryan and Bethany.
from Ryan and Bethany Board Game Reviews.
And today we're talking about Between Two Castles of Mad King Ludwig. This is a combination between two other games, which are Between Two Cities and The Castles of Mad King Ludwig. This is a really interesting game. Let me show you how it came to be. I love you so much.
I love you so much!
Where?
And that's how all board games came to be.
Not necessarily true. We are not board game biologists. I cannot certify that.
certify that. Like, you can get a certificate and be a board game biologist.
Someone probably has. Jeff Engelstein, if anybody.
Yeah. This game was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. One of the things that I thought was interesting that they did with this game, and not so much interesting, just like useful and helpful, was the scoring. So as you score down, we realized this the first time we played, there's only so many spots for each category, and that's because you can never score more than those spots have already dictated. So like the very bottom, what is that, main tile, like the throne room tile or something? You can only ever have one, and there was only one spot to score on that. It's a really little thing, but it's just kind of nice that they took that into account. They just didn't fill up the space because they could fill up the space.
One of my favorite things they did that they took from castle or between two cities was that you are scoring both a castle to your left and a castle to your right. However, the victory points you're going to get at the end of the game is whatever castle scored the least amount of points. So you can't just like ignore one and get 20 points in it and 80 points in the other, because then your in-game score is going to be 20 points. So you really want to build them up equally if you can, and it's a really interesting mechanism that I've only ever seen in between two cities, which I like that a lot.
Yeah, this was really fun to introduce to people too. The people that we introduced it to, it was a lot of fun. Our game group definitely enjoyed this game, and it was fun to teach. Well, everybody, if you want to find more of us, you can find us on YouTube or Facebook. We are Ryan and Bethany, Board Game Reviews. Everybody, this is Ryan. I'm Bethany. Hoping you have a happy, healthy breakfast.
Bye, everybody.
Guys.
Hi, I'm Josh from the YouTube channel Josh Yaks, here to talk about another thematic game mechanism. In the world of racing games, dice have traditionally been used in clever and very thematic ways to control vehicles. Some examples include powerboats and power ships, or Rallyman and Rallyman GT. But for today's mechanism, I'm going to go all the way back to 1997 for one of the originals in the genre, Formula Day, which was re-implemented 11 years later as Formula D. The version that I owned back in about 2003 or 4 was called Formula Day Mini, which was basically just a simplified version of the original game. I'm going to look at the brilliant mechanism of the gear dice in Formula Day Mini. When you hear the phrase roll and move, do you reflexively cringe a bit inside? Fear not, friend. Formula Day Mini manages to use this mechanism to great effect by having dice represent gears. When your race car is in first gear, you move forward on the track by rolling a d4 that only has 2 1s and 2 2s. Shift up to second and you roll a d6 with the numbers 2 to 4 appearing twice on the die. This pattern continues until in fifth gear you're rolling a d20 with 2 each of 11 through 20. Now, why don't you just stay in fifth gear and blast around the racetrack? Well, the way the game simulates slowing for corners is that a player's car must end a move in each corner's red zone. If you overshoot the corner, your car takes a damage per space that you've traveled beyond the red zone. Get enough damage and your car completely breaks down. Downshifting by more than one gear at the same time also causes damage, so you need to be careful about planning your approach to each corner. On the other hand, you ideally don't want to drop to too low a gear because you can only go up by 1 gear at a time to regain speed. So there's a real push your luck element to this exciting race game. It's amazing that the ancient roll and move mechanism on a 24-year-old game can be so exciting and thematic. I'll catch you next time with another cool mechanism, and meanwhile, you can hear more about racing games by swinging by my Josh Yaks YouTube channel and checking out a video I made 8 months ago about my top 10 favorite racing games. Cheers!
All right, so let's talk a little bit about what's happening this week. First of all, I just put a link in the description of, in the comments of this video, in the live comments, where you can click on that link and it will add to your calendar all the videos we're doing over the Spring Spectacular. So it will just let you know when the next one's coming on your calendar, if you care, but I just put that link in there. But let me tell you a bit about what's happening. We're doing breakfast now. As soon as breakfast is over, we're going to Mike's first 10 of his top solo games of all time, 50 through 41. At 10 a.m., we'll be playing Smash Up Marvel and Sheriff of Nottingham. Z's going to be playing Stardew Valley at 12:30. At 2, we'll be playing Chroma, Cosmic Encounter, Dixit, and Board Game Dad will be doing his top 6 spring games. Tomorrow, I'll be announcing the Dice Tower Award nominations for last year. Mike will be continuing his solo games. We'll be playing the new X-Men Marvel United game. Board Game Weekenders are doing a video. Z will be playing Paleo. We'll be playing Vivid, an upcoming game. Cryo, Just One, Nidavellir, and Stella will be taking a look at Unmatched. Wednesday, the first championship games ever and the debut of our new track for Shoots and Marbles. We moved it to Wednesday because it didn't fit on Tuesday. Sorry for you Tuesday viewers, but Come watch it on Wednesday. It's exciting. Mike's going to be doing a solo thing throughout the whole time. I'm going to stop talking about that. Maharaja. Z's going to be playing Sagani. We'll be doing crowd surfing like we always do. Four Gardens, Canvas, Code Names, and Top 10 Heavy Games, a skit, a Top 10 of 2019. And then Thursday, we'll do our normal board game breakfast. We'll be playing Dice Throne Adventures. Z's going to be playing Everdell and Faces, my custom Faces game. And then we'll be ending the whole Spring Spectacular with our top 10 games everybody should play at least once. This is a 5-way top 10 list. Me, Chris, Roy, Z, and Mike. We hope you enjoy that. So again, I put that link in the description. Cameron is the one who put that calendar together. Thank you. Hopefully that will help you all out. Let's keep going.
Howdy folks, welcome to By the Numbers. My name is Hunter Thomason from the Family Showdown. On this episode of By the Numbers, I'm going to continue my Through the Years series where I look at the best game on Board Game Geek by year. We start with 1970, this time 2009. Take a look at the top 5 from 2009. We see the number 1 game is Dominion Intrigue, coming in at number 84. Dominion Intrigue is a standalone sequel or expansion to the 2008 Dominion game. We didn't talk about that game because it came in number 3 on the 2008 rankings. Just like the original Dominion, Dominion Intrigue is a deck building game. In fact, this game can be combined with Dominion to play with up to 8 players. Take a look at the ratings, over 30,000 of them. We see mostly 8s for an overall rating of 7.7. Taking a look at the weight, comes in at 2.42, which is about right for a straight deck building game with not a lot of bells and whistles. Dominion is one of my wife's favorite games. You remember Rebecca? Everybody remembers Rebecca, right? So, for a gift for one of her, I think it was a birthday, I built her, or put together, I guess I didn't really build the box, but I put together a box to hold all the Dominion expansions in one place. Let's take a quick look. Little sneak peek. So, we got all the rule books, bazillion rule books. Then I got all the cards here, labeled and sorted, alphabetical order, and all the different special cards, tons and tons of the gold cards and other things. All the little boards for, like, I think it's Adventures, it has the taverns, and all the metal coins and all sorts of goodies, all still stored in one place. Dominion was not good enough to make it in the Through the Years series, but its standalone sequel was intriguing. See you next time.
This is a segment where we take a board game based on an IP, and I tell you if the IP and the mechanisms match together. Today we're looking at Sin City. The first thing I have to say about Sin City, this is probably a mass market game at its time, but the components are really, really good. The little pieces you move around are like pewter metal. They're really, really nice, and the tokens are thick, and everything looks great. I do wish there was a little bit more artwork in the game. I do like stills. That kind of brings me in to what I'm doing, but I know they're a big turnoff for a lot of people. As for the game mechanisms, you're going to have 2 phases in the game, a setup phase and then an action phase. Setup is where you're just taking tokens, you're moving them around the board based on the rules that's provided. In the action phase, you're going to flip over an action card and do what it says. Now, that has a lot of luck that's involved in it, but where the game kind of shines, you have goal cards. And the goal cards will tell you how you want these tokens to be on certain spaces or around the board, and you will score points necessarily. If you score a number of goal cards and you're able to successfully complete them, then you will win the game. So the game works, and I think it looks really good. Do the IP and the mechanisms match? Yes, I think very highly indeed, although the game is probably just a step up over mass market and a little bit below a gamer's game, if you will. It's a fine game. I think a lot of people will enjoy it. The more you enjoy Sin City, the more you will enjoy this, because the IP and the mechanisms do fit really, really well together. You're not playing any individual character from the movie. Instead, you're trying to move things around for the plot of the movie to happen, and that's a really fun experience. This is what I would say if you're a Sin City fan, you definitely should check out.
Hey, I'm Grant with Grant's Game Rex, and today I want to recommend a game about blending in called The Chameleon. Am I doing voiceover right now, or have I disappeared into my surroundings? You don't know. Maybe I don't just love games, maybe I have become games. This is a great party game for a group of family or friends. It's almost more of an activity than a game. The rulebook itself says that points are optional. You hear that? You can't make me keep score. Whenever I play the Chameleon, we oftentimes just play until we don't feel like playing anymore. In the Chameleon, you will have different category cards with a bunch of options. Each player gets a key, and then you roll some dice to figure out what the answer is on the key. So if that was the answer, then each player is going to give a clue related to California. But one player doesn't have a key, and they have to just come up with a clue out of nowhere and try to not get caught as the person that doesn't know the answer. We bluff our friends all the time. I know you've told somebody that you're 5 minutes away when you haven't even left the house yet. So you might as well put bluffing your friends into a game. Side note, if you've never watched video of a chameleon changing colors when it changes backgrounds, you gotta check that out. It's crazy. It's either proof that miracles exist or proof that the devil exists, and I'm not sure which one. I'm blending in because I'm wearing green.
Hi, I'm Tim,
I'm Lizzie.
and we are To Play,
Or not.
To Play, a show about board games for two players.
Whose tastes may differ. Okay, so as you may know, our channel is all about our differing tastes in games and finding games that we can both play together, that we both like, and it's all good.
Yeah, no badgering to play, must play my game.
Yes, you do badger me all the time. So over the next few weeks, we wanted to give you a top 10 of games that we think we play together well and we both enjoy them, and it satisfies both our needs.
Yeah, we've done a top 10 on our channel, which is our favourite top 10 games, but of course we don't always agree on that and we don't get to play those games. So these are specifically the 10 games we play the most together.
Yeah, the meat is both in the middle, basically.
Yeah, so we're going to do one each week for the next 10 weeks.
Okay, and today is number 10, which is Barren Park.
Barren Park.
That's a bear.
Yeah, it's a really great game. This is Bear, actually, strangely enough, and that's why she likes this, I'm sure. Nice game, though. Yeah, you like the tile laying games, and this is one of those really simple. There are not many rules, and basically what you do enables you to do other things. So you've got a blank tile. When I say blank, it's tile. It's a board without any tiles on it.
Yeah.
But
it's your park. It's a bear park.
It's your bear park.
It's a bear park.
Yeah. Nice. But you've got spaces, and some of those spaces are filled with cement mixers or diggers or wheelbarrows. And depending on where you lay your tile, if you lay it over one of those symbols, then you get to play another tile from that symboled area. So basically, you just enable yourself to take another action. Very simple game.
Really cute as well, I think.
Yeah, it's a 2 to 4 player game, but we obviously play it as a 2, and it's 30 to 45 minutes. So a very quick game, which is why we play it a lot. It's nice and easy and quick to get to the table.
Yeah, and it satisfies my kind of simple liking of simple games, and you like your tiling and there is tactics in there as well.
There's quite a lot of tactics, the way you play it. So
it's a good one that meets us in the middle.
Yeah, and we both tend to win at this, so it's not one where one of us is always the triumphant one.
Triumphant.
So
yeah, highly recommended Barren Park, number 10.
Yeah, number 10. Cool. Thanks, guys. Enjoy the rest of your breakfast.
All right, folks. Well, I am pleased as punch to announce today that we have a new sponsor on the Dice Tower, and hopefully this will be good for you all. We are now being sponsored by Game Nerds. Game Nerds is a great online game store, and if you haven't heard of their deal of the day, there are people on the internet who watch for it every day. They have a sale. What time is that sale? It's like 1 p.m. Eastern time. Yeah, so there's always a sale that goes up with Game Nerds, and they also have a great selection of game at great pricing. So we're really excited about that, and one of the reasons we're excited about that is because they're going to be working with us for contests over the next few days during the Spring Spectacular. We're going to be giving out gift certificates to Game Nerds. We're going to be working with them. Every Q&A that I do on Mondays is going to have a contest for gift certificates from Game Nerds, and we're also going to be, you're going to see some cool contests in upcoming top 10s. So that's kind of a fun thing to do. And we're excited about that, and we're thankful for that. And one of the other things about working with game nerds is I'm going to be bringing back a series that I used to do where I talk about the best-selling games of the previous month. This will usually be a separate video. Today, we're sticking it in Board Game Breakfast as my thanks, but this is just to show you. We'll pull this video out later on. We usually do that with our spectaculars, post the videos later on separately. But this is an idea. Let's talk about the best-selling games from February. Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and welcome to the top-selling games of February 2021. Now, we used to do this, and we're bringing this video back. We're going to do this on a monthly basis. I want you to realize that there's no way to find out what the best-selling games are in general. It's just not possible. So we're working with game nerds to find out their best-selling games. They're giving me that data, and then I'm just going to share that with you. And this is just for informational purposes. I find this sort of thing interesting to take a look at what happens here. So we're going to take a look at the top 10 selling games, and then we'll take a look at the top selling expansions. Now, I want to explain when I talk about best-selling games, I'm talking about the quantity of sold games. I'll mention revenue in just a bit. So, number 10 of the top 10 selling games is Super Skill Pinball 4K. This is from Jeff Engelstein. This is a roll and write style game. I can see this one, it's a very small game. It's a pinball experience. It has a lot of attraction, and it's actually a really good game. Number 9 is Honey Buzz. So that's kind of interesting. Honey Buzz is a really cool, really nice component game. As you place bees out, build your own little beehive in front of you. I'm very impressed. This is the follow-up to Atlantis Rising from this company, so good to see this one here. Number 8, Hallertau. No surprise to see Hallertau on the list because it's an Uwe Rosenberg game. Uwe Rosenberg games tend to sell well, especially big, grandiose games. And it feels like it's been a bit since he's put out a game like this one. This came out last year, but it is now getting into wide release. Number 7 is Unmatched Cobble and Fog. I struggled a bit here, folks, as to where I would put the Unmatched games because they feel like expansions, but they are a standalone game on their own, so they're on this list here. Cobble and Fog, this is the 4 different characters here. I still haven't played this one yet. I heard it's really good. I know Z gave it a rare 10 out of 10. Number 6 is Hansa Teutonica Big Box Edition. So Hansa Teutonica is back. It's a game that has essentially no theme at all, but it is a very well-regarded game about building an engine up, the most Euro-y of Euro-style games, and now it's back for people to get and doing quite well. Number 5 is another Unmatched. This is a smaller box one. It's Little Red Riding Hood versus Beowulf. So if you I just think that combo is funny. But again, the Unmatched series seems to be doing extremely well, and this is a 2-player version of that. Number 4 is Nidavellir. And by the way, I should mention that my numbers are always going to include pre-orders here, so sometimes the game will be one that's not out yet that people are pre-ordering, but that's information I think that's useful. Nidavellir, which is one of my favorite games that came out in 2020, but I know most people did not get a chance to run across it, probably is a 2021 game, considering that at this point, but a lot of people enjoying this one. Highly recommend it. You should consider it. Number 3, The Quacks of Quedlinburg. This has been popular now for several years in a row. I think we can declare this one at this point to be an evergreen title, one that people are going to want to play over and over again. This push your luck style game. Number 2, Isle of Cats. This is another one I think it's only been around now for a year, but to be this high, still after well over a year after it's come out, the Isle of Cats, this maybe it was just a new edition of it came out, or another printing of it to put it up on the list. But this is another one that's very popular, drafting and polyomino placement. And number 1, Dune Imperium. From the makers of Clank, I knew that this would be an incredibly popular game. The moment I played it, the theme is hot. People are waiting for that new Dune movie to come out. Deck building, worker placement, area control a little bit. Lots of fun stuff in this one. When I look at the money versions of these, when we go by straight amount of money that came in, some interesting, Nemesis makes the list at number 5 because the Nemesis game is not very cheap, but still very popular from Awakened Realms. And number 10, Gingopolis comes on board. Gingopolis, the reprinting of that, this game has been selling for very high amounts on eBay recently. Other than that, most of the games are in similar positions on that list. So we look at expansions. We're just going to look at the top 5 expansions. So we would start with Photosynthesis Under the Moonlight. So Photosynthesis, this actually Under the Moonlight is an expansion I don't really care for that much, but the base game is really popular, and Under the Moonlight has these cute little animals, and you may love it. I felt like it added a lot to the game. Rules didn't add a lot to the game fun, but a lot of people are enjoying it. Number 4 is Isle of Cats, Late Arrivals. This is just more stuff. More cats, more players, more cards. I don't know that the game needs more players, but it doesn't. I don't think it slows the game down considerably to add the extra players, but who doesn't want more stuff? Then number 3 is Quacks of Quedlinburg Herb Witches. You're noticing kind of a correlation here between the popular games and their popular expansions. This adds more choices and things to Quacks of Quedlinburg. I'll always play with the Herb Witches. Number 2 is Parks Nightfall. So adding in, man, the artwork in Parks, and I like the artwork in Parks Nightfall too. So a very popular game, so people are going to want this. And then number 1, the expansion for Nidavellir, Thingvellir, which I was told I was at. I did not realize that when I did the review of Thingvellir, but I've actually walked through that area in Iceland. Great expansion to a fantastic game. So those are the top selling expansions. By the way, if you add in money, then Root Underworld and Wildlands the Ancients come on the list at 4 and 5 instead. Each month, when I do this in the future, I'm going to talk about where they were the previous month. Obviously, there's going to be changes. Games go out of stock and, things. These do not include sales on games. The Game Nerds has the daily deal. That's not included in this because those are very popular, obviously. But I want to thank them for partnering with Dice Tower and giving this information to us. I hope you enjoy it. We'll see you in another month as we look at the best of March. I'm Tom Vasel. You've been watching the Dice Tower. If this is your first time watching Board Game Breakfast, I occasionally review other things. So I thought I would talk a little bit real quickly here about the Snyder cut of the Justice League movie. If you don't know what I'm talking about, the Justice League was a movie that came out 3 years ago about, the DC Justice League. It was a follow-up to Batman vs. Superman and had everybody in it except for Green Lantern. Still not sure why it didn't have Green Lantern in, but whatever. There's a long story behind the whole thing, but the director of the movie's daughter died, and it really devastated him and his wife, as I can imagine. So he dropped out of the project, and Joss Whedon came in, and so when you watch that movie, you can tell there was 2 different directors. It's universally not looked highly upon. And spoiler alert there, I really disliked that original movie. I mean, there were parts of it that I enjoyed, but I didn't care about it. I am a big Marvel fan. So when I heard that Zack Snyder had come in and redone the movie, made it 4 hours long, and I don't particularly like his vision for the DC universe, so I wasn't that excited about it. But I watched it anyway. I watched it over 2 days because it's pretty long, but it is split into chapters, so it's kind of easy to do so. The movie's recorded in 4:3 dimensions, like old TV style, and this is done clearly so that it can go to IMAX theaters at some point. I don't particularly care for that. I forgot about it after a while, although it drives me a little bit to have parts of my TV that aren't used, but not a big deal. It's much better than the original one. And so that's kind of a weird thing because everyone is online, lots of people are raving about it, and I wonder how much of that is because they're comparing it to the original one. You can see that there's a much stronger storyline. They went back and gave more background for Flash, and even more specifically, Cyborg. They gave a lot more background to them. They took out some of the stuff some of the humor that Joss Whedon did, and in fact, if you like humor in your superhero movies, there's not a tremendous amount in this one. There's a little bit. It's mostly from the Flash, who is by far my favorite character in this particular thing. And in fact, they made the Flash, they made him a stronger character, I thought, and gave him a little bit more to do. So the original movie, I don't care if I'm spoiling anything, bad guy comes, Justice League stops him. Justice League barely stops him, Superman shows up, Superman crushes him. In fact, the original movie, Superman wasn't on any of the posters because it was like Superman had died in Batman vs. Superman, and oh, was he coming back? It was the worst kept secret ever of a superhero movie. But Superman came back. Now everyone knows that. He's in this new movie. I still don't like Zack Snyder's portrayal of Superman. I don't think I ever will. Superman is not a grim, unhappy character, which Zack Snyder makes him out to be. I also am not a huge fan of Zack Snyder's Batman. Not that I think Ben Affleck's a bad actor for Batman, but I also don't like I don't know. He just doesn't feel like Batman. He doesn't feel like the same Batman from the other Batman movies. It's just, he's a different kind of Batman. Overall, again, like I said, I enjoyed it. I would give it a 7 out of 10, but to me, it doesn't hold a candle to the Marvel movies, and I struggled a little bit about why that is. Is it because there's more slow motion in this movie than there is in any other 20 movies combined? No, although I will say about the 10th slow motion scene, I just started calling it out. Slow motion! Here we go again. The action sequences are fine. I think the final battle action sequence was amazing, and so is the mid one. Both times when the heroes fight the main bad guy. I thought both those sequences were really well done. It has a long epilogue, Lord of the Rings kind of epilogue, with a really, really weird off-the-wall, let's shoehorn a couple characters in, part to the epilogue at the end, which I felt they could have dropped, because they're definitely setting this up for a sequel, which Zack Snyder says is not going to happen, and we all clearly know is going to. Here's my biggest problem with Justice League. I don't care that much about the universe. And I don't mean that DC versus Marvel. I mean in Marvel. Marvel does a great job. Winter Soldier and Falcon came out this week. And I learned a whole lot about Falcon's sister in that episode. And about the therapist who was working with the Winter Soldier. That's not really spoiling anything. You learn about these people. And all throughout the Marvel movies, you meet the little people, also known as you and me. In a DC universe, they mostly do not exist. They are cannon fodder. I don't feel like the heroes are trying to save people. They're saving the universe. It's hero versus villains. And I'm not saying this is across the board in all the DC movies, but it was in Justice League. It was them versus the big bad guys. And I didn't feel like they had earned this big giant bombastic ending like the Marvel movies all build up to that. So I still like the Marvel movies way better. I feel like they have more heart. They definitely have more comedy, and I tend to like some comedy. I mean, if you're saving the world, a little bit of levity on the way goes a long way. They're also brighter and more cheerful. So it sounds like I'm not a huge fan of this. I enjoyed it. I don't know that I'll watch it again. Definitely better than the first one, and I wonder if all the ratings from people come on board that. But Flash is great. Wonder Woman's great. I could take or leave the rest of the characters, honestly. So there you go. Let's keep going.
Still sleeping.
Pa, what's going on? Pa. What?
I want to show you this game. This game here. Yeah, that one. Tactical Operations Op 4. All right. Look at that. Hey. Shh. Don't wake him up. This is a solitaire game. Takes 20 turns to play. And every card you turn over tells you the amount of hours that you've consumed in your 20 hours. So you got so many moves to make. Pa, you're so sneaky! That's wicked! So basically, you lay down a grid of 3 by 3, so that's 9 cards of the enemy. So you gotta take out this card, the close air support card, on your first turn. Pa! How come the Podfather is on the dice tower with Z and Tom? He's Italian. He gave them an offer they couldn't refuse. He's gonna do patat. You gotta be careful with the Podfather, because this guy got a kiss on the cheek, and he lost his 2 legs. So if he ever wants to kiss you on the mouth... So the first card you gotta choose is the one closest to you, right? Anyways, first step, you choose a Fraggle card. Fraggle. And that move you just made. And fun text and all that and topographic stuff. Yeah, text. Well, the move you just made cost you 6 hours, but you got 7 attack. So you see, the more hours you spend, usually the better attack it is. So, with your 6 hours and 7 attack, we now turn over the first card closest to you. And we turn over an Op4 card. And it tells us 3 defense. You wiped them out. But you still spent 6 hours doing it out of 20. So time is wasting. So, this game could be brought anywhere. On a plane, on a train. You just need a little tray, and it takes 5 minutes. You know, when Tom has his dialogue. Play the game. Just joking. And he sent me 2 other games. This is a 2-player game, Civil War game, and warcoach.com, and Bible Wars, where you learn text-specific lessons. Plus, it's a fun game. 5 minutes!
And that's it for another board game breakfast, folks. But stay tuned. Don't turn it off. As soon as the outro to Board Game Breakfast plays, Mike's going to be jumping in and doing his first of his top 50 solo games. So that's on the same video. Stay tuned and watch for that. And then jump over to our next video at 10 o'clock where we'll be playing Smash Up Marvel and Sheriff of Nottingham. All right, I'll see you all there. I'm ending Board Game Breakfast now. It's time to turn it over to Mike.
Thanks for watching Board Game Breakfast. Tune in each week for your daily dose of gaming goodness with Tom Vasel and all the gang. Until next time, I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching Board Game Breakfast, a Dice Tower production.
DiLisio's, bravissimo, sporadically bored, but never pianissimo. He's got less shame on his shelf. Pulls down a game, plays it by himself. Mike DiLisio's top 50 solo games.
Hey there everybody, I'm Mike DiLisio and I am thrilled to be presenting to you my top 50 solo board games of all time as part of the 2021 Dice Tower Spring Spectacular. I love solo gaming and I have for a number of years, but it seems like in the last year or so, solo games have gotten a lot more attention. As people have not been able to get together and play games with their friend as much, solo gaming has become increasingly an option for people to still get in that board gaming itch that they want to scratch so much. So I hope that these series of videos are going to be a reflection of the types of solo games that I like. So you're going to see cooperative games on the list. You're going to see competitive games with a solo variant on the list. Big epic games, small games. I have a lot of different types of solo games that I like, and hopefully some of the games on this list will resonate with you. But without any further ado, let's just go ahead and get started with the first 10 games on the list. So, coming in at number 50 is Sunset Over Water. What a gorgeous little game with a really, really endearing theme where you are a photographer and you are trying to take pictures of the most beautiful landscapes and scenes out there. And those are going to be represented by these lovely cards that are laid out on a grid on the table. And it's a nice spatial puzzle. You'll probably hear me say that a lot on this list, as a matter of fact, because I think that games with a heavy puzzle element, spatial or otherwise,
are particularly well suited to solo games. And Sunset Over Water is one example of this, where you have this nice little puzzle in front of you, and you are trying to be the most efficient you can, get the most points. Just a lovely little game, Sunset Over Water. Number 49 is kind of on the other end of that spectrum, from a small game to a large epic game, and this is Sleeping Gods. Now, this is a very new game, Sleeping Gods, coming from Red Raven Games and Ryan Lockett, designer, artist, etc., etc. And I've been through one full solo campaign of Sleeping Gods. I've also played it some multiplayer. It is one of the most wonderful solo experiences I've had. It's a storytelling-driven game where it's a very open world feeling. As a matter of fact, I feel like Sleeping Gods maybe evokes Zelda Breath of the Wild better than any board game I've ever seen before. Now, it's a little bit further back on my list, although any game on this list means it's fantastic to me. But that's because as a solo gamer, you are having to control 9 different characters, and that is something to be aware of. It's a little bit of administration as a solo gamer, but it's so worth it because the experience that you get is so rich. And although I've played through a full solo campaign of this, I feel like I've just barely reached the tip of the iceberg. It's a very replayable game, and not all campaign games are as replayable as this one is. I can't wait to dive back into another campaign, whether it's by myself or with friends. It doesn't matter, because Sleeping Gods is such a really, really special experience. At number 48 is a similar type of game. This is Tainted Grail. Similar in the sense that it is a story-driven game, although this is a much kind of a darker theme. It's kind of a dark take on the Arthurian legends. And Tainted Grail is a game that has maybe the best writing I've ever come across in a board game. And there's a lot of writing because you've got this immense storybook that you go through as you're playing through the campaign. And it really reads like a novel, and it's so immersive in that sense. Now, some of the mechanics can be a little bit grindy, and so you just kind of want to keep getting to that story, but if you push through it, it's worth it because it's such a spectacular experience by the end. Tainted Grail is a really intriguing and special storytelling game. At number 47, Street Masters. This is a beat 'em up in a box. So it evokes kind of those old school beat 'em up video games as a board game. Very tactical. You've got a kind of a board in front of you that's going to depict whatever environment you're in. You're going to pick a fighter that you are playing as, and there's a whole bunch of different fighters in the game. You just pick a deck that is going to represent your fighter with different abilities, and they all have strengths and weaknesses. And then you're going to pick a bad guy that you're going against, and then you're going to have some type of event. And you put these decks together in what's known as the modular deck system, and you've got yourself a game. And so it's very replayable because you can pick different fighters, different enemies, but it all comes down to kind of this tactical skirmish on this map that you're playing out against. A really fun game and a great solo game, Street Masters. Number 46, Dawn of Peacemakers. So this is a really, really unique game. That's the word that comes to mind when I think of Dawn of Peacemakers, is unique. Because it looks like it's a war game. You've got 2 factions that are competing against each other, but you're not playing as either of those factions. What you are is a peacemaker. You are somebody that is trying to kind of surreptitiously, secretively, and sneakily get these 2 factions to give up on fighting this war. And you do this through playing cards. It's really interesting because to some extent, it feels like a tactical war game. You're moving these figures around on a map. But again, what you're trying to do is get it so that neither side is going to completely dominate the other side. You want to get them so that they're tired out, that they're worn out from all of this fighting, and instead they decide, we're done fighting for now, we're going to give up. It's really an interesting kind of take on this genre where it kind of throws away the expectations that you feel like you have going in. It's also a campaign game, so things change as the game progresses. A really unique game, Dawn of Peacemakers. All right, at number 45 is a big, epic worker placement game from Uwe Rosenberg, who's well known for his solo designs, and this is A Feast for Odin. A Feast for Odin for me is my favorite of the Uwe Rosenberg worker placement games. And I like them all to some degree or other, but my favorite is Feast for Odin. And I think it's because it presents you not only the satisfaction of the worker placement game where you've got, a whole lot of different options you can take, but it also has incorporated within it a polyomino style puzzle element. And the combination of those two things are so satisfying when you can pull it off, when you can pull off those great kind of combo-y type turns. Feast for Odin is a pretty impressive achievement as a design because you almost feel like there's too much. When you look at it all on the table, you're like, how can all of this come together into a unified experience? But it really does. It has a unique economy involved. Feast for Odin is just a fantastic design and one of my favorite solo games, my number 45 favorite solo game, as a matter of fact. Number 44 is another worker placement game, smaller in scale, but very elegant, and this is Viticulture. I really love the feeling that Viticulture evokes. It is a game that, to me, feels very thematic. You are trying to have the best vineyard. You've got a vineyard, you are planting vines, and you are harvesting grapes, and you are maybe inviting people to come tour the vineyard to get some money so that you can invest in new technologies to help you do better when you're producing these wines. And you're trying to produce wines that fulfill particular requests that customers will have. And so Viticulture as a solo game is controlled by a deck of cards called an Automa deck. And really what it's going to do is block spots from you. It's a very simple way to administer a solo game like this. Worker placement, usually the interaction points are in those spots getting blocked from you. But I'm telling you, every single time that there's a particular spot I want, I flip over that card and they're blocking it from me. I don't know how it does it, but every single time it seems to do it to me. So it really gives a nice feeling of tension when you have to worry about what the AI is going to do. Viticulture is one of my favorite games in general. It's a great solo game as well. At number 43 is a very, very unique cooperative game. This is a new game called Paleo. And in Paleo, as you might expect, you're playing as a Stone Age group of people, Paleolithic group of people. And you are trying to keep your humans alive. And you're doing this by fulfilling missions, doing the things you might expect at this time, having to get food and furs and maybe building tents. And you do this by going to locations that are represented by decks of cards. And you have an idea of what you might encounter at these decks based on what's on the back, but you don't know for sure. And it's a really, really intriguing form of a cooperative game. It doesn't feel like other cooperative games that I've played. It's also one that has different modules, so you can continue to play the game and kind of change up sometimes the complexity, sometimes just the type of game you're playing. But this is a really impressive design, and it's one that I continue to want to explore as a solo gamer. Number 42 is another kind of big, sprawling worker placement game. This is Anachrony. Anachrony is a game that has so much going on the table. Again, this is another one that when you put it out there with all of the components and the big board, and if you have the miniatures, there's these big kind of unnecessary but beautiful miniatures, you feel like it's going to be too much. But it really is an elegant design once you get down to what it's all about. And it has a time travel mechanic that is essentially a loan mechanic where you are getting a particular resource you need now, but you're going to have to pay that back later on and maybe with some interest. And so Viticulture, the solo game is run by an AI opponent that you are fighting against with a really well done system of tracking what the AI is going to do, and it's competing with you for all of these different things you're trying to do. A really impressive design, a very fun, challenging solo worker placement game. All right, last game on this series is Black Sonata. This is a solo-only game, and it shouldn't work. When I first heard about Black Sonata, I thought a hidden movement deduction game for a solo player, only one player, that doesn't make sense, but it works. It's a really, really unique situation where you're trying to deduce the identity and the location of this mysterious lady. And you do this through a deck of cards that kind of is going to determine where this lady is moving around the central map. And you have to gain clues to try to figure out who this person is and where they are. And it's just so cleverly done. It's not a big game. It's a small map, a small deck of cards. But it is so clever and so well done. And again, it doesn't feel like any other game I've played as a solo gamer. You don't think it should work, and it does work beautifully. That is Black Sonata. All right, well, there's my first 10 games of my top 50 solo games. Stick around for the rest of the great content that we've got for our Spring Spectacular, and I hope to see you on my next 10 games of my top 50 games.